Hello, this is Mr. Pink and Yellow, and I'm with some random female who's got some interest in men's rights. So, just for the hell of it, I decided to talk to her and record it. So, and I should call you Lucy, okay? So, hello, Lucy.
Hello.
Okay, so you are a feminist, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what is your experience with feminism growing up? What was you told about feminism, and what was you told about gender growing up? So I presume you was born in the
When I was
90s.
growing up,
Oh, sorry, yeah,
yeah, I was born in the 90s.
yeah,
I think I probably became aware of feminism properly when I was a teenager, probably sort of 13, 14, 15. And my sense of it was when I was at school, I witnessed and faced some sexism, some what I would call misogyny. And there was a lot of assault at my school, and there was a lot of girls being called sluts or at the same time pressured into doing things and being called prudes and then being called sluts. There was a lot of that kind of quite school type of sexism,
right.
um as, as well as sort of a lot of, the kind of thing like ranking girls out of 10, sort
Okay,
of, but
let's.
rate competition, that kind of thing.
Okay. So that's a lot to unpack right there. So you think ranking girls out of 10 is misogyny?
Um, yeah, I do. I mean, it obviously slightly depends on the context, but what I'm talking about is like, so the boys I went to school with,
Yeah,
we went to a music festival,
yeah,
and they would point at women as they went past and shout out a number out of 10,
right,
often in my like quite low. Although I didn't go close because I didn't want to risk being ranked. But
right.
and I would call that misogyny. Yeah.
So their motive was absolute seething hatred of women, then.
Um. Yes. Well, I think it's seething hatred is complicated. I think,
Right.
probably but I think misogyny, yeah, it's obviously viewing women as lesser, as people you can do that to. I would put that under the
Okay,
blanket
so
of misogyny.
how do first of all, how do women treat girls treat girls, and how do boys treat boys? Content X matters here, right? So boys say stuff to each other, they bust each other's balls, they call each other virgins, right? Geek males will get picked upon. There's bullying going on all the time. Girls call each other sluts, right? Rumors spread about each other. So girls who rumors spread about other girls, are they misogynists?
Yeah, I think girls who call each other sluts are I think that is, if they're, doing it in a negative way, I think that is misogyny, yeah.
Right,
I think women are absolutely capable of misogyny, and that might come from a sort of self-hatred
right,
kind of thing.
right.
But I would absolutely.
I don't think it comes from a self hatred type of thing. I think it comes from a rivalry, basically. So I, 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 I don't think boys hate girls, to be honest. I think hatred is too strong of a word. Okay.
Yeah, maybe. I've just looked at the definition. It's, dislike of, contempt, or prejudice. I think I know that in misogyny. I know that the Greek root means hate, but I think
Okay.
it doesn't mean it doesn't seething hatred. I would put misogyny. Obviously, it can be seething hatred, but I think it can
All
be a
right. So
slightly
hatred. All right. Let's
less.
just forget seething hatred, right? So if a male says something bad to a female, does he hate all women, or does he just particularly hate that woman? Or is that just a nasty person who's nasty all people? So that's the thing. It's like men do not hate women, as far as I'm concerned. But so you're talking about sexual assaults in school. What do you mean by that? Going on all the time?
Oh,
Like
it just happened a lot in my school.
what sort of things happened?
Um, people being groped at parties non-consensually, people being pressured, like I mean, or like quite aggressive sexual assault as well. Girls locked with my friends. I don't want to give like too much detail, but
Right.
people being no one ever. And I mean, there's two harassment and assault are two different things, and like
Right.
technically groping someone is sexual assault, although like
Well,
I don't think that means that I want those boys to be arrested for that, but it's still
okay.
quite
So
shit.
what do you mean? What do you mean by so? Like randomly grabbing someone out the blue, or just feeling them up, feeling their
Yeah, that
bum,
happens.
trying it
Yeah,
on. Right.
yeah, exactly.
So, so
Oh, pressure. Someone was locked in the bathroom and forced to give head, that kind of thing.
well, that's rape then, isn't it? That's a form of rape. So if you,
Yeah, that one is.
that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that's
I
violence.
use assault as a broad
Okay,
umbrella term.
okay. So just groping someone is different to forcing to give someone head in. All right. And
Yeah,
how do you know
big
these
spectrum. I would,
how do you know these actually happened as well? So there's all sorts of rumor
well,
spreading that goes on. So
that's true,
yeah.
but I, I, I mean, heard people talk about it, people brag about it. I saw girls very upset about things that had happened. Some things happened to me. I don't
Okay,
want to talk about that.
okay, but right, you don't have to talk about you personally, but okay. So boys bragging about it. So are you saying like boys were going, I locked a girl in the bathroom and I made her suck my dick? That's sort of bragging,
I mean, no, but like groping, yeah.
right? What do you mean like just trying to fill a girl up? Then there's a different like,
If
right, if
you're
that,
at a party and
it, right,
someone comes up behind you and grabs you, that is now I'm not I don't think it like obviously there's a massive sliding scale between that
okay,
and rape, but that's still I
okay,
would definitely that's still assault.
okay, but there's a
I'm
context where
not
there's a context where it's acceptable and there's a context where it's not, right? Okay, so if you're, I'm just saying if so, like I'm not saying even just grabbing. Like say a man comes behind a woman and grinds up against her, and they both start dancing, right? That's different in the middle of the street in the public, walking up to a woman and pinching her ass, isn't it? There's a contextual
um
difference.
yeah, that's true. I'm not
Yes.
talking about people dancing together. I'm talking
Okay. All
about
right. So, okay. So, when did you first become? So it's 13 when you first became aware of feminism. Okay.
yeah, I mean obviously I'd had the word before, but I would say I've
So
yeah.
was it taught to you in schools?
No. Not at all
Okay.
until much later. I
Okay.
became aware of it. Basically, when I was at school, there was a widespread, there was a frustration about this kind of thing. It was quite difficult, and I'm not saying boys didn't have problems as well, but that was a genuine problem for women. This sort of constant sexual pressure, and then this constant judgment on both sides for either doing it or not doing it, and it just. And
Right.
so I actually started to know about feminism because of
Hmm.
Caitlin Moran, her book How to Be a Woman, which is probably not the best introduction, but
Well,
that's how I learned about feminism for the first time.
so what sort of thing?
And
Oh, sorry. Carry on.
no, well, that was my first introduction to feminism, and it was quite nice to see in a book that someone, some of the language that been used around women was wrong and
Yeah.
pressure. I just remember the book. It was interesting to me to learn this stuff for the first time.
Right. Okay. That's. I never saw this as a kid, so this is quite alien to me. So what did it sort of things did the book say?
I can only remember bits of it,
Right.
but I can remember it talked about pubic hair
Yeah.
and the weird. It talked about that way that women are really shamed about that, and
Okay.
uh,
Who shames women about pubic hair?
some teenage boys.
Do they?
This wasn't
I don't remember that.
well.
I,
It definitely happened.
okay. So I'm not trying to do a whataboutism, but I remember when I was in boarding school, right? And I was a small little kid, like, and there was older boys, a couple years older, bullying the kids. No one gave a fuck. Sorry, pardon my French. No one cared. It was absolutely terrifying. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I don't at all think that the cruelty. I don't at all think that boys aren't subject to cruelty and
Well,
sexual cruelty as well.
I think they're subject to more because I promised you that boy was throwing her right around with girls, right? The boarding school would have stepped in. I promise you that now.
Mm.
Okay.
Well,
So
I can believe that. I think that
okay,
boys are probably. Well, I can believe that.
okay.
Um,
So and anyway,
and I don't.
I think a lot of females from a very young age start rumor spreading. They start gossiping. They start making crap up as well. Quite frankly, there's a lot of lies, because I've just noticed personally myself, right? Okay, women who suffer that sort of thing do not brag about it, right? Okay, because there's two reasons: there's a shame about it, and also people don't want to relive it. Okay, so I've just noticed when people are too proud about it, that just makes me very suspicious that they're lying when women do that. So anyway, so let's move on. So you first discovered feminism when you were 13, so it resonated with you. Okay,
Yeah.
so you obviously came across the concept of the patriarchy and men oppressing women. When did you first come across that concept?
Um, hard to remember, but probably about the same time.
Okay, and did you believe it?
Yes, but I probably don't, but I think it depends on the definition. I
Okay,
believed that there are structural ways in which women are disadvantaged, but that's not to say that every woman is more of a victim than every man.
okay, so there's structural. So you believe right now that women are structurally disadvantaged compared to men, then?
In some ways, but not in all ways.
And what kind of ways?
I think it's well, sexual violence is a big one.
Okay, men suffer more sexual violence than women.
I think I know, and I think, with I don't think we've solved the childcare problem at all.
Okay, but you
I
do,
think more women's careers
but
get damaged by that than men's.
okay, but you do realize men
And I'm
suffer,
not saying
but you do realize men suffer more sexual violence than women, right?
really?
Yes. You put U.S. prison, U.S. prison, the U.S. prison system. You just include that and compare that to Europe and America together.
Um,
There's
I
probably more
don't
sexual violence than women suffer. And also, there's
I
countries,
think
there's countries where women can't legally rape men either. Okay, and there's studies out there like where women commit like 40% of sexual assault as well. Like a lot.
mm,
So you can make a man like in the UK. If a woman rapes a man, it won't be classed as rape. It will just be classed as sexual assault. So
yeah.
do you literally believe that 1 in 4 women will be raped in a lifetime?
No, I don't think that's a statistic.
That is the
I think
statistic. It's actually changed to 1 in 3 as well. It's 1 in 4 or 1 in 3, and sometimes it's 1 in 5.
well, I think that honestly, if this is a statistic, is this the Center for Disease Control and Prevention statistic?
There's various different statistics, right? There's very different.
Well,
There's self-reporting studies. There's a meta-analysis of
um,
criminal
if
data, and
that's a
there's,
global statistic, I could believe that. I don't have a reason to doubt it, but I think the
okay,
UK statistic is that 1 in 4 women have experienced sexual assault, including attempts. That's
attempt.
not the same.
That's not the
That's in the
same.
UK. I can't tell you
Okay,
about global, I don't know.
okay.
Um,
So
in the UK, 1 in 4 attempted sexual assault, that doesn't seem crazy to me.
I think it does. So do you interact with men in real life, in your personal life? Do you interact?
Yes.
Okay. So why aren't you avoiding them then?
I don't think that because I like many things about men.
Okay, if I don't believe 1 in 4 women are sexually assaulting men, right? If I believed that 1 in 4 women were sexually assaulting men, I'd personally stay away from them.
It's
I
not
would.
that, it's just that, well, yeah, I guess women make the choice
Well,
that it
okay, they make the choice. Or they don't really believe it.
I th the stat is actually that just 1 in 4 women have been sexually assaulted at some point.
Wait,
So, you know,
it's
hanging out with men also, I don't like, I mean, you will hear of some feminists who really, and some people who really, really don't wanna spend time with men,
yeah, and
but I think a lot of people view that,
right,
all the many, many, many good things about men make the like the
okay,
I don't think living in fear like that would make sense.
right. So
Because you might like
the many good things about men, except you got 1 in 4 chance of being raped. That's
no,
okay.
assaulted or attempted
Assaulted. All
assault.
right, assaulted. Okay. So
You know,
well, the thing is, they do floaty definitions of that anyway. Attempted rape, sexual assault, rape, or they do 1 in 4 women experience rape and violence. They do all sorts of semantic games with
yeah,
their
I think it probably
statistics.
depends on
It's it's
which.
it's actually dishonest, actually. To be honest, it's a deliberate attempt to inflate stats, and there's various different proven methods that they use to inflate the stats, right? So they conflate unwilling to have sex, which can mean many different things, to rape. Okay, so unwilling could mean, oh, he pressured me, or I just wasn't in the mood for it, but I did it anyway, and I didn't let him know I wasn't in the mood for it. It can mean many different things. Okay, so feminists have been called. Now, even women who haven't defined themselves as being rape victims, the feminists will put them as rape victims in the statistics as well, using the semantic games. But anyway, sorry, let's carry on. So,
I think that you're conflating a lot of surveys there. I'd like to know
well, the thing is,
about that.
I can show you this stuff afterwards, but feminists
Sure.
use various different dishonest methods in their studies. Okay, for example, they'll publish a study. All right, and it will cite another feminist study, and that'll cite another feminist study, and that'll cite something and something, and it's all nonsense. Okay, it's a propaganda arm. Okay, so anyway, so anyway, so you think we live in a patriarchy then? I suppose. Do you believe we live in a patriarchy?
Yeah, although I kind of find I don't think that my day to day. I think in some ways society is patriarchal, but I don't go about day to day thinking the patriarchy designs my whole life. I think there are patriarchal elements to this society.
Okay, so what patriarchal elements are there? Are there to this society? And let's define what the patriarchy means. So what do you mean by a patriarchy?
I think that men have certain structural advantages over women, and some women's issues are not taken seriously.
Okay, so what structural advantages do men have over women?
Well, you're probably going to disagree with me here, but the wage gap.
Okay,
I think a disadvantage with childcare. I think sexual violence not being taken seriously, and I think a lot of
okay,
institutions. I think just sexism is quite common, and a lot of institutions have. Every so often you'll see like the police or whatever. There's institutional sexism.
okay,
That's what I would say. Do I
okay,
go about my life being like, oh, another in the patriarchy? No.
okay. So basically, the wage gap. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna be quite frank. I'm cut off from romance because I'm low status, right? I'm too poor to get romance. I haven't worked for a while. I've got no connections in the workforce, so I'm cut off from romance. Okay, this is what the wage gap actually is. Okay, if men do not earn, their romantic choices are kaput. They're greatly diminished. Okay,
Is
and
that
men have
really
to.
how you have you?
That's not how I view
Sorry.
it. There's this data backing this up, and women have even admitted it to themselves. Men, I've even been told by it by a girl who dumped me. Okay, okay, she was unusually frank and honest. Okay, right. Okay, men earn more money. Okay, earn more money. They work overtime. They work more dangerous jobs. Okay, because women deselect lower status men. Men have to bring more to the table. So the wage gap is not really a wage. It's not a wage gap for the same work. Okay, it's men earning more money due to a gender role that women enforce on men by Pavlovian training, basically. It's to avoid deselection. So women demand this of men, right? And then they turn around and go, "Oh yeah, that's a wage gap." When women demand it off men, right? There's plenty of men who'd like not to have to work overtime or work themselves out and stress themselves out to get a relationship. The male workhorse provider is not a fun gender role. That's what the wage gap actually is. So the crime is on women enforcing that gender role on men.
Are you are you sure you really think that it is entirely 'cause I agree with you about this divide. I do think there's more pressure for men to earn money, and I don't envy that.
Yeah.
I definitely think. But are you sure that you're kind of blaming that entirely on women? Are
Yeah.
you sure that's the case? I mean, isn't it kind of, I would say it's in part, you know, certainly like 50 years ago, 70 years ago, in the 1950s or whatever, when women were unable to work, I don't think that was all women's fault.
Women weren't unable
And
to work
isn't
50. What do you mean women weren't unable to work 50 years ago? What do you mean?
well, women were sorry, they were unable to work. I'm
Right.
exaggerating. But a lot of women, there were massive barriers in place to women working, and women working
Right.
70 years ago.
What massive barriers?
Well, there were lots of educational barriers.
Right.
A lot of jobs wouldn't accept women. A lot of universities wouldn't accept women.
A lot of universities wouldn't accept women. Right. Are
Yeah,
you
that's
sure
really
about
true.
that? Are you sure about that?
Yeah,
So like even
yeah.
even before World War One, like 30% of people in universities were female. Even before World War One.
Princeton and Yale began admitting women in 1969. A lot of
That's
the
one
US top.
university. That's one university though, isn't it? But this is okay. So basically, I'm going to try and explain how the Industrial Revolution affected work. Okay, because I think most people got a false understanding of what work is for the genders. Okay, so basically, pre-industrial, we were basically living in the medieval era, more or less. Okay, society slowly developed. Okay, then there was the Industrial Revolution. There was women working in factories. Okay, because the families used to work on farms. A lot of people just lived on farms and worked on farms. They lived in clans and worked on farms. Right, and industry developed. This is a very rough theoretical model, but this is more or less true. Then we moved into the industrial era. Women were working in factories. Okay, okay, and as more and more wealth was developed, women started working less and less. Okay, in the past, it was only bourgeoisie, rich families that could afford women not to work. Okay, and then when the working classes got more wealthy, they started copying the bourgeoisie, and there was more housewives. Okay, so this period of women working less was a brief. It's not a what's that? It was a blip. It was a historical blip. It was not the norm, right? It's framed like, oh, women were kept out of work, and also women didn't want to do a lot of work. Okay, like work.
Do you really think that's true?
Do,
Do
do you
you
think
really think that's true?
do you think women wanted to work down mines and get diseases in the lungs and die down mines? Do you think women really
No,
wanted to do that? Okay, right. Women,
no, I'm
men.
glad that no one has to do mines. I think that's an awful job. But what about all the other jobs?
What all the job like going emigrating overseas and doing
Do you
working
really
overseas
think
and
that?
sending money back to women?
Do
Working
you
on
really?
working on ships and getting scabby, working in ship. Do you think like British Empire? Do you think founding the empire was easy? Do you think men going overseas? Do you think that was easy work? Do you think that was fun? Catching malaria and dying. Men, the gender
Um,
role is for men to take risks, provide for women, get resources for women, and give it to the women. Men
I'm not.
take the risks.
I'm not saying that men had it easier. I'm just disputing. What I'm disputing is your idea that all the women who are housewives, all of them wanted that, and
Well,
it
the
for
thing is,
some, for, I think, and for a large.
okay, a housewife is living off a man especially in the past, and even now, but especially more so in the past, she was living off a man. She could just leave the man and try and survive on her own, working a job like a man had to.
Where did you get this stat on the 30% before degrees before World War One? I'm
First
really
World
not
War.
sure
I
that's
got it from some men's rights site. I can look it up again and share it with you.
right.
It,
I'm not sure that's true. Like,
okay.
Oxford and Cambridge didn't allow women to study until well after World War
Well,
One.
okay.
Study for
Well,
schools.
that's because men had to earn status to get the women, and that's a gender role women demanded of men. There was no. The thing is, in the past, there was no welfare state. If women pushed men out of jobs, that man didn't just suffer; his family suffered. Right? It was the expectation of men to provide for women. Right? Men had to
I
legally
don't think
provide for women. Actually,
I don't think that system is a fair system for anyone, men or
right?
women. But I just really dispute your idea that women like really planned that and made that happen and were like really
I never said women
really
planned it.
trying to avoid work.
I never said women planned it. Look, human social structures are rarely planned that way. They can change laws. There can be some planning, but human beings, social structures arise from our instincts and our social economic conditions. That's how it basically happens. It's only partially planned if it's planned at all. But
Because
this,
I think, right, the world you want is a world where men and women have there's equal expectations on them to provide.
Yeah.
But like I think a lot of modern feminism means like, I think paternity leave should be longer. I think men should have equal childcare rights and also responsibilities.
Right.
And I think there should be equal access to all jobs. And I do think that
I
like a lot of modern feminism, and you might see the worst of feminism online, but I do think a lot of modern feminism is kind of just wanting. Obviously,
right.
there's biological differences, but I do think a lot of it is just wanting more equality. I don't think
Well,
there should be a pressure on men to be the breadwinner. I don't think that's the case.
how can
Um,
how can I just interject? How can feminism want more equality when women have more rights than men?
So, for example, with paternity leave, I think it's a good example.
Yeah.
The statutory minimum in the UK for men is 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think that's really low. I think that's hard on men
Yeah.
because they don't get enough time to bond with their child. Yes,
Yeah.
they don't have the medical need to recover that
So
women have.
so
They,
w- so
I think they should have more time off with the baby,
right.
but it also benefits women. But like a feminist would advocate for that as
No,
well
they wouldn't.
because not only, well,
What
I
can you give?
would,
All right. Can you give me examples of
because
any? Can you give me any examples of any organised feminist group advocating for that, please?
I'd have to research that, but I think the
Well,
feminists I know all would.
I can give you examples of feminists blocking equality when it comes to parenting. Like the National Organisation for Women lobbied Republican Governor Rick Scott to block equal shared parenting, and they successfully lobbied him. He was a Republican, he was right wing, and he vetoed the shared parenting bill in California, or was it Florida? It's one of the two, right? He vetoed the shared parenting bill, and MRAs and not even MRAs. They asked feminists why they did this, and they just gaslighted them basically. Talk about deadbeat dads, men just not wanting to pay child support. I've seen feminists say men just want equal shared parenting so they don't have to pay child support. So I don't think there's any feminists out there who want men to get a better deal when it comes to parenting. To be
Oh,
honest,
okay. The people I know do,
do
and
they?
our view would be, yes, the feminists I know do, and
Yeah,
the view would be that not only does it benefit men to have more time with their child,
yeah.
um, that also it benefits women because in the workplace, if women are taking 9 months off regularly,
Mhm.
say a woman who has children gets, that's a big career gap that men just don't face. It is more fair if men are also taking that time off. If it's, I mean, obviously, it's still negative for parents in general, but it actually is better for women if men also take time. That would help if, a mother and father, so, heterosexual relationships, but with a mother and father, that would be useful for the mother to be able to go back to work if the man takes time off as well. Like,
Yeah.
there's loads of, I'm not sure about complete 50-50 because obviously the woman has medical, the person who's given birth has a medical requirement. But other than that,
Mhm.
um, I think it absolutely benefits both parents.
Yeah, but I don't think
I think
women. I don't think women really want that. I think that hours worked data for single women, married women, single men, and married men sort of debunk that. To be honest, because I think women want men working more and they want to work less because that seems to be the pattern of behaviour. Single men work less hours, married men work more hours, single women work more hours, married women work less. So it seems to be more of that male workhorse provider gender role that women actually want from men, whatever they
so. Do you
say.
think this is feminism's fault?
It's feminism's fault, it's female nature's fault, and it's male nature's fault. Okay, so it's not just one single cause. Men want to pander to women. They want to be with women. They want to be with women more than women want to be with them. And women want social dominance and they want to control the family unit and they want to provide a male. So they have more work. They want a more flexible lifestyle. They want to work less and have a more comfortable lifestyle. And they're willing. And many women, not all, but I think most, are willing to dump that onto men. Quite frankly.
Okay, well, I don't quite agree with that view, but
Yeah. Okay. So I can show you the data later if you want. The hours work data. So yeah. So do you think women should be able to give up their kid for adoption after they give birth to it without any strings attached? So they just be able to relinquish parental responsibility?
um, sorry, do you mean as in relinquish it to the man?
No, to the man or to the state. Should a woman just be able to go to the state? I don't want to have to look after this kid. I can't cope. I'm out of here, and just give the kid away to the state.
Um, I think that's really sad when it happens, but obviously some women are completely incapable of,
Okay.
obviously I think it's sad, but there could be a reason why someone has to give a kid up for adoption, and obviously there are parents who want to adopt.
So is that's a
I
yeah?
don't think
That's a yes then.
it's a yes, but I
Yeah.
think it should be a last resort. I
All
think
right.
it's
So
a,
I mean, it's not a lot. But how do you define a last resort? How would that legally be enforced as a last resort?
like morally, if
It's all
I
right.
like some women, some people are completely incapable of raising kids.
Okay. Okay. So
And I don't think, and I would hope that they would give it to, a grandparent or the father to raise the kids.
all right.
But
So it's, ju-
but
it's
there are situations where babies get abandoned, and that
I,
in that case, but I don't see why giving up for adoption, if someone else wants, if an
okay.
adopter wants
All
to.
right. So should a woman be able to give a kid up for adoption strings free? Yes or no? She just says, I can't cope. I don't want this kid because of reasons. Should it be strings free? Like no responsibilities. I just give it up. Goodbye. Yes or no?
My ultimate view is that if a mother really doesn't want to have the kid,
Yeah.
then if she was forced to keep that kid,
Yeah.
that would be a horrible life for that kid. That's my view.
All right. Okay. So
Well,
what
I
do you?
think it's a shame, but
Okay. So what do you think
but
about?
I think
Do you think men should be forced to pay child support?
do you mean, sorry, is this in the case when the woman is keeping the kid?
All right. Yes.
What's
Yes.
the
All right. It's in the case when the woman wants to keep the kid. It's in the case if the woman doesn't tell the father that she's pregnant and has the kid, hits him with backdated child support. It's in the case when the woman sleeps with an underage kid and gives birth to the kid, even if she's of an adult. That's statutory rape. They'll hit the kid with backdated child support. Definitely in the USA, I know that for sure, right? So it's in the case. In some cases, even if not in the biological father, and she lied to him. There's many different cases, right? Should men be forced to pay child support in whatever case?
I think I don't want to convey. I don't know enough about the US child support laws, and
Yeah,
I think they're a bit different to UK.
yeah, but
Um,
they're
with
still pretty
either
bad.
gender, I think with either gender, if one parent is looking after the kid, if one either biological or like a legal parent is looking after the kid,
Hmm.
then the other one should financially contribute to that.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. So basically, we've got a
but
situation.
either.
I've got many different views about this. I don't believe in child support. Period. I think it's slavery, right? Okay, and it's very it's a an, and even from a reformist point of view, there's a lot of reform that it needs to be done. But I just believe in abolishing it. But I think it's slavery and it's a form of evil and it's coercion. And society's very, very comfortable with coercing men without their consent, overriding consent. But they're very sensitive to not doing it to women. Okay, there's many fathers out there who are not even allowed to see their kids, right? Or don't get to see the kids, or the woman just ignores the visitation orders of the court, and they still pay child support. And also, there was a study recently that child support drives men to suicide in the UK. There's a big statistical risk of being driven to suicide by child support. Okay, so there's some sort of trauma there. And there's a lot of skullduggery with the system just pulling figures out their arse. Like Elon Musk, I don't like the guy, but Elon Musk apparently has been forced to pay like millions upon millions upon millions, like three-figure sums of millions of child support. Okay, if it's child support, why is the figure so high? Does any child cost millions upon millions? So it's not really child support; it's woman support. It's just another tax towards women, or
That's is that the US law though?
it's a
That's
US, yeah, but the UK law, there's some differences, but they're similar. It's basically men are being cursed out their money, some being driven into poverty to pay for a woman quite often who didn't even tell them or is pushing them away, right? If a woman decides, I don't want this relationship to carry on, but I'm not willing to let be a father and be in the kid's life, why should she get paid for that? Okay,
I I don't look. I actually don't. I'm not like a super expert, and I
yeah,
think that you could. I think that yeah, I know that there's a sort of general perception that child support laws favor women, and that could be true. However, I do think that being a single parent is incredibly, a lot of people on like a minimum wage, being a single parent is incredibly expensive. So I do think, and I do think, unfortunately, like the person who leaves in a relationship, in a divorce,
Yeah,
doesn't, you might think it's immoral to leave, but the person who ends the relationship, that whoever leaves, and likewise whoever cheats,
yeah.
that doesn't really affect the financial
I,
outcome.
I, I don't, I
So
don't,
like if,
I don't,
but
I
okay,
don't, I don't care who cheats. I don't believe in marriage. I don't care who
if you
cheats.
put it the other way, say a man and a woman,
I,
say a man and a woman have a kid,
yeah,
and then the man leaves the woman to
yeah,
deal with the kid, which
yeah,
does happen as
yeah,
well. Which
yeah.
then do you think if the man leaves, do you think he should not have any financial obligation, and the woman should be, and the woman who say isn't very rich, say she's got a very low paying job,
Well, she just
or doesn't even have a job, or has a
what?
low paying job, do you think the man should be forced to pay or not?
No, he should be able to walk. A man should be able to bust his nut in a woman without a condom, breed her, get her pregnant, and just walk away. I just believe that. I don't care if it's seen as a scumbag thing to do. Like, first of all, a woman has to choose to give birth to the child. First of all, and fathers have no rights anyway. Rights without responsibility is slavery. Okay, fathers have got no rights. They've got no moral obligation to pay. The state has to pay, as far as I'm concerned. If the state wants to block fathers having rights and favour mothers, there's no moral obligation on the man to pay, on the father to pay. Full stop. That's what I believe. So,
Right. So for
and
you, it's not about who leaves; it's a blanket thing.
the blanket. Well, the thing is, right. In the past, it's like with divorce laws in the past before no fault divorce, there's fault divorce, and the courts just wasted their bloody time finding out who's at fault, who's immoral, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. It's not of legal
No, I
interest
agree with
to
most
me.
people.
Like,
I agree with you on that.
okay, yes, and the fact, okay, so I think so. Child support is a form of slavery, and I think men have a right to walk away. I believe in abolishing child support. It's a form of slavery. Like, women are allowed to give up their children. They just are allowed to give up their children. They just give him up, give it up. Boom.
What? Okay, so hang on. So I think this is really unempathetic because if you okay, so say a couple,
Yeah,
married, not married, whatever,
yeah,
have a 5-year-old, then
yeah,
the man, and the old sort of thing goes out to get milk and leaves. Do you think that woman who loves her 5-year-old and doesn't want to give it up
yeah.
should therefore have that full financial burden
Well,
when the man actually, say the man makes decent money, so like it's not
yeah.
like, do you think there should be no obligation on the man?
Should be no obligation on the man because the woman can just give it up for custody. Like, women can,
But
in fact, when women give it up, children up for custody, the father's not considered a custodian by default in the UK and the USA. So yeah,
okay, well, my view is I believe that parents, obviously, women are able to decide on, pre-birth, post-birth.
yeah,
I believe that parents should have equal responsibilities in child support, and if one either side, but my view, I don't think my view is sort of man-hating. I
right,
think that men should have to pay child support if they if they're not parenting, and women should have to pay child support
right.
if they're not parenting. And I think that works both ways. And
Oh, so it,
I do think that I completely believe that. I think that's really, and I think a lot of good parents, a lot of good fathers would want to contribute financially.
okay.
Now, I think I have seen an argument that you think that sort of childcare courts are more likely to assume that the mother would be a better raiser of the kid.
Well,
I have seen
it's not just assumption on my part. There's something called the tender years doctrine that's been around since 1870. Right, it's not just an assumption on my part. It's actually part of the tender years doctrine. No longer exists, but it formed the basis of the current system. Right, young children stay with the mother even after divorce, and the father has to pay for it. That was the result of the tender years doctrine. Kids go with the mother because mothers are more nurturing, apparently. That's the basis of the British system.
um yeah, I'm not no, I'm not I think there's a real I'm not necessarily pro that.
Okay,
And
so
I think I can understand why that would be, but I think it's very case by case basis. I'm not a lawyer. I haven't dealt with that kind of thing. But
okay,
I do think I think it's unfair if there's a bias against men. But my view on child support is equality, and and it's about
right.
wanting kids to benefit. And
Okay. So if you wanted kids to benefit, you'd be against divorce, though, right? You're against
no,
single
because I
motherhood.
don't think I'm pro-divorce because I don't think people should be forced together in miserable marriages.
Okay, so people shouldn't be forced together to live in miserable marriages, but men should be forced to pay to raise kids.
Men
If
or
you don't make
women
okay,
forced to pay. I don't think it's slavery. I think it's paying. That's like saying tax is slavery.
well,
There's paying a bit.
it's slavery right now for men because they don't have any rights. They're paying for something where they have no rights, right? So that's definitely slavery right now. And also, they can in the USA and in the UK as well. Actually, they can get jailed for it, which is debtor's prison. So, and there's many skullduggery things like in some US states when they have their driver's license taken away in the USA. They're put in jail for not paying child support, and then they're charged for the time in jail. That's added to the child support
Believe
bill.
me,
Yeah.
I think the US is too punitive. I'm not going to disagree with you there.
Okay.
I think that the US, I'm against a lot of US laws, so we can
Okay.
start on like state by state US laws.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll think many of them are mental.
So all right, let's move on. Do you think men should go to jail for staring at women?
No, but I don't think they do.
I think I've linked you the story. I've told you about it. I can show it to you again. That the police have even warned men against it, and if I remember one of the stories correctly, one man's already been to prison over it. St-
Um,
s-
oh, no, it was because he blocked her exit and like I think it was because because he blocked her exit, didn't let her leave the train.
well, that's not staring then, is it? Did you read the
Yeah.
same
Yeah,
article?
sure, I know what you mean. I know the article are you thinking of the
Okay.
did you send me the Spectator article? That didn't
I didn't. I don't think I sent you the Spectator article. I sent you another one. So the police
well he
police have warned against staring at women as it's sexually unhealthy behaviour.
so
Men have
this
been warned. Men have been warned against it. There's signs on the London Underground saying not to stare at women.
sometimes when you're traveling late on the tube or on a bus, if someone stares at you and if someone makes
Right.
prolonged it can make you uncomfortable.
Okay. So do you think a man could get a woman arrested or in trouble? Why over it? Do you think a man
But
could?
this was I would think that if so according to I'm just reading about this the victim asked him to move as he was blocking her exit, but he refused and said she would have to climb over him while spreading his legs. And he just
Okay.
yeah.
That's not the article I'm talking about
I
then.
would hope that if a woman did that, she would get in the same
Right.
amount of trouble. I would.
All right. I don't think we're talking about the same article, but I'll have to look into it. Because so you think it's okay to go to one demographic, don't stare at the other demographic, or you go to jail, or you can get in legal trouble.
No one's been to jail just for staring.
All right, I'm gonna look that up and prove you wrong, most likely. But they've been warned with it. The police have warned them that they can go to
Um,
jail. The police have warned them they can go to jail.
like
They've warned them.
I
I've read
was
it.
really,
They've warned them.
I have been when you're on the tube as a woman, there's a lot of people and even many encounters where people can behave quite creepily and in a way that
Creepily.
obviously makes you afraid because,
Right.
there are attacks that happen late at night. There are things. So naturally, there are times when men attack women late at night.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that I can absolutely believe this also happens to men. But I do
Yeah.
think that in these kind of late night attacks, I would argue that men are the perpetrators
Okay. So
most of the time.
so who? So men are the perpetrators most of the time. Okay. So women don't
Of
attack
like
men.
late night attacks.
Women don't attack men. Then
No, I said most of the time.
most of the time. All right. Okay. So how do you know that?
Just all statistics.
All statistics. Okay. All right. So I think
Like,
I've seen women actually hit men and police refuse to arrest them. So I don't really trust the crime
well, I think
statistics.
that's bad. But I mean,
Okay,
Caroline,
okay. I'm actually not sure.
there is
I'm going to use an analogy. I'm actually not sure this is true because this is a right wing a racist right wing talking point, not a right wing talking point, a racist right wing talking point. I'm actually not sure this is true, but I've actually had right wing racists tell me that blacks commit crimes against whites more than whites commit crimes against blacks. So would it be okay for the UK government to warn black people about not committing crimes against white people, or would that be racist and bigoted?
no, that would be racist.
Okay, so
But
why is it okay to do it towards men in regards to women?
I think because it's warning about a specific type of crime. If you saw, but there's lots of, I mean,
Okay.
Those I assume the crimes you're talking about. Look, I don't really want to sort of. I'm concerned about indulging this racist talking point, but
Right.
I do think that there will be warnings about if you're talking about assaults on men. There are warnings about that as well. This is warning
All right.
about sexual, like this is
Right.
warning about sort of crimes of a sexual nature
Okay.
being. This is the field we're talking about.
Yeah. So, but feeling creeped out. The
Sexual.
thing is, I feel creeped out. That's not. I don't want to validate those sort of feelings from people. I feel creeped out. Right. If someone feels paranoid and creeped out and scared against the demographic, that's their fault. And
Do you
women's.
think it's okay? That guy blocking that woman on the tube.
But
Like, do you think that's okay?
okay.
And if
No,
that happened,
I don't think it's
not
okay. To be
really.
honest, no, I don't think that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never say that's okay. But I don't think charging men with getting men in trouble for staring at women, right? And what about man spreading as well? Like men get accused of man spreading, right? Women touch men all the time. I think I showed you that video of that of that black pop star at a concert getting his dick touched by a woman in the
Yeah,
audience,
I think
and
that's
nothing
awful.
happened
I
to
think
her. Nothing happened to her. Okay, so it's not only women get sexually assaulted. Um, I don't want to get I don't want to get antidotal at all, but I've seen women do that sort of thing as well. I've seen women assault, right? I've seen women molest. I've seen women hassle, right? I've not only seen women attack men. I've seen women attack women. Okay, so if I got harassed by a woman, right? I wouldn't know what to do. I couldn't like if a man harasses me, I'll just go. If you don't fuck off, I'll punch you in the face. I can't do that to a woman. I'll be in trouble. I can't warn her off. I can't go to the police about her. They'll laugh at me. They'll laugh at me. It's a massive difference. Sorry, I'm digressing. So, okay, so you're disputing the stare thing then. Okay. So, what do you think about
um
affirmative action in STEM for women?
I don't know much about it because I don't work in STEM.
Okay, do you think men should be pushed out of STEM even if they're qualified or more qualified to make a way for women?
Um no, I think it's about like earlier. I really don't know the details, but I do think that it's sometimes maybe when at school women should be encouraged to participate in their individual schemes, but I don't think I think
Right.
that should happen early on in the process. But
Okay. So, all right. Do you know there's far more female nurses and school teachers than male ones?
uh no,
Okay.
but
So,
I think of nurses as a more junior. Sorry, I don't want to sound disrespectful. I think of nurses as a more junior job,
right.
or less well paid. Not junior is the wrong word.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's just say junior. Don't have to be. Okay. It's a less trained job. Right.
So yeah, it's a less well paid job. Yeah.
All right. It's a less well paid job. Okay. So, and what about teaching?
Um. Yeah, I know there are more women than men. Again, it's not a very well paid job.
Right. But there used to be more male teachers in the past.
Yeah, I think that's a shame. I think we would have more male teachers.
All right. So I think I think female teachers are actually pushing men out of the teaching profession.
Do you?
Yeah, I strongly
Or do you
suspect
think
it.
men not really? I wonder if it's more the case that it's not a well paid job, so men are not applying for it as much.
Right. Okay. So, do you know female teachers downmark boys in primary schools for the same work as girls?
That sounds unfair.
Yes. Okay. Okay, that's okay. So, right. So, you've got so so we've covered education, we've covered workplace, we've covered family court, we've covered sexual assault, we've covered violence. So, what do you think? Do you know there's a sentencing gap for women when it comes to
Um,
committing the same crimes as men? When you control for the same crimes, women are less likely to get charged, less likely to get a prison sentence, and less likely to get the same amount of time as men.
yes, that's why I can take your word for that.
Yes. and it's actually there's sentencing guidelines to avoid sending women to jail as well because they're vulnerable apparently, and it doesn't help them. And also
I
they bring up all the disadvantages that women face, but in a non sequitur manner for some reason. So
I think that sounds unfair.
right, so you admit that's unfair because
Yeah, I do. I do at all. I'm not arguing that. I don't
yeah.
think feminists would argue that men don't have any disadvantages.
I think a lot of feminists do argue that actually.
Okay. Well, the thing is, like, you're a men's rights activist. I'm
Yeah,
sure if I put in front of you some statements by some people who call themselves men's rights activists,
yeah.
you would find that you'd be like, well, that's not what I think.
Well,
So I would say this.
the thing is, there's lots of first of all, the problem with the whole men's rights thing is first of all, there's something called the manosphere, which is not really men's
Yeah.
rights. There's a lot of major manosphere figures who condemn men's rights. Right, it's mostly dating advice and right wing politics and
Hmm.
stuff like that, and it's lifestyle advice as well. And there are a lot of trad cons. A lot of men's rights activists are useless. They either say ridiculous extreme things or they're completely the wet drips and useless. Okay,
Hmm.
and a lot, especially feminists, they love doing this. They love conflating people who are not MRAs, and they love calling them MRAs to smear the men's rights movement. So yes,
Yes.
okay. So yeah, so if someone says like feminists will, for the most part, like for example, why are women allowed to say kill all men on social media with impunity and keep their jobs and keep the social standing and not get arrested? If I was tweeting, if I suddenly decided to start a hashtag kill all women and I was posting it on every day, ranting the same sort of things that feminists rant on kill all men, I promise you I'd get a visit from the police and I'd be charged for hate speech within a few months, right? So
Yes. I don't. I don't support saying kill all men.
okay. So I'm pointing these out because I don't think men have one single systematic advantage over women. Not one single institutional social advantage over women at all. Women have every single systematic institutional advantage over men, and they've got social advantages over men because there's been scientific studies that show everyone likes women more than men. Right? There's something called the women are wonderful effect. You can look it up. People have a more positive view of women, but women have social, legal, systematic, institutional advantages over men. Every sphere. Every sphere. Okay? I can't think. I've never had. The only example I can think of is female privilege backfiring in the examples of when women attack other women. The female attacker is more likely to get let off, and the woman victim is less likely to get justice. That's female privilege backfiring, as far as I'm concerned. Women have complete systematic domination over men, and I can back that up. I can back that up. I've never seen a feminist point to something that's serious and say women face that disadvantage and prove it. They can't. It's got no foundation to it at all.
I think that you're identifying a lot of problems, like a lot of problems in society, but you're viewing feminism and women as the enemy in a way that I don't think you should.
Well, I'm not viewing women as the enemy, right? Okay, I view feminism as an enemy. That's a political label. You choose to be a feminist, right? People choose whatever political label they want, and they pay the consequences for it. It's not a demographic. You're not born into a political label. They choose to have that label, right? That's on them. So, and yeah, I think there's problems with female nature. There's problems with male nature, but there's problems with female nature. You're not allowed to analyze it. You're not allowed to criticize it. And I think women are enabled more than men. They're validated all the time, and they're socialized less than men. They get away with more, and they're giving negative feedback more. Less than men. They're giving negative feedback less than men. Doesn't mean women. I believe that women per se are the enemy. But even if I wanted to say that, so what? I'm not out to strip. I'm not out to strip women of rights. I'm not out to make them inferior, right? I'm in no position to do so, nor do I have any will to do so. It's men who are having their rights stripped, and it's them who are actually getting oppressed by women. Women are actually oppressing men. It's easy to prove. Family court proves it. Employment discrimination proves it. Female teachers down mocking boys proves it. Hashtag kill all men proves it. Feminist gatekeeping of the media proves it. Systematic lying by feminists in the media about many prominent cases. Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, the Cyprus rape case, that feminist director of prosecutions who's going after rape cases with weak evidence, suppressing mobile phone evidence, watering down due process to get more convictions. There's lots of things. And also men, they've done a change in the UK where violence against women, if a man commits violence against women, he's treated the same as a sex offender and he's put in a register. And he's thus going to be, it's going to make a lot of men unemployable. So I don't see why that exists when women already suffer less violence and no demographic deserves extra protections than any other. So this whole concept of ending violence against women is actually bigoted. What makes women more important than men? Why do they deserve extra protection than men? Why? Why are they more important than men? A woman's not more important than me. I'm just as important as any woman. My life is just as valuable to me, and it should be just as valuable to society as any woman's life.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay. Do you believe in the concept of femicide?
That's just about women being murdered.
No, it's women being targeted for mass murder because they're women. That's what the concept actually is. It comes from Latin America, where the homicide rates between the sexes is actually more skewed against men than it is in the West. Actually, in Latin America, there's far more murders against men than there are against women. It's like in some Latin American countries, it's like 10-1.
Yeah, I think men are more victims of violent crimes. That's true.
Yeah,
But I think that doesn't mean that femicide doesn't exist. That's like being like, you can't believe in something. Like,
right.
I feel like that's kind of whataboutery. And femicide is the hate crime when specifically women are killed. That's like,
So
but like the
So
side, like so many words, like there's so many different sides for different types of killings.
all right. So do you believe in white genocide?
What, killing of white people?
No, white genocide is a concept by white nationalists that there's a white genocide plot and mass murder of white people. Do you believe that concept's true?
No,
Okay, I don't believe it's
but
true.
I don't.
I don't believe it's true either. But I think white genocide is very similar to the concept of femicide.
Hang on,
White,
sorry, femicide is like violent killings of women and girls by gang members in Latin America.
no,
That does sound like
and
people.
the concept spread to the rest of the world, and feminists use it. I saw feminists in a Marxist group in America talk about femicide in America. There's a femicide problem in America, and the male Marxists just kept their lips sealed shut and just let us spew on about femicide. Right? They can't.
But you know something really sad? The number one cause of death guess what the number one cause of death of pregnant women in America is?
Falcon Punch.
Sorry, what's that?
No, it's a joke. Sorry, no. Tell me what the number one cause of
It's
death.
murder.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not. Prove it.
No, a pregnant woman.
That's not. That's
I'll
feminist
find it
lies.
all.
Right. So do you think so? Men are like left, right, and centre beating pregnant women to death.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. BMJ. That's homic.
Okay.
Um,
So women suffer less violence than men, right? But suddenly men are murdering women left, right, and centre while they're pregnant. I think that's another feminist howler that's been debunked. I'm. How can you believe that? That's been debunked. I remember that's been debunked. That's false. It's not the number one cause of pregnant women death.
I think that you can talk about a killing that is gender-based. I think some women are killed for gender-based reasons, and you can call that femicide. I don't think that is saying that women don't die by violent means
Okay,
I
so
don't think that's saying that women are murdered more than men. I think you're kind of taking something from
well,
it.
so basically, sometimes white people are murdered for being white, right? It must happen sometime, right? So that means white genocide is a valid concept then, using the same logic.
Genocide means like mass killing.
Right, femicide, it's related to genocide. That's what the word
Genocide.
that's what the term the term femicide is meant to make you think of genocide.
No, no. So patricide is like killing your father, matricide killing your mother,
Okay.
infanticide.
Feminists talk
So
about
the geno bit means the
okay.
geno bit is the, like, big group of people bit.
Okay.
Femicide could be individual.
Okay. All right.
Sororicide means killing a
Okay.
school.
Okay. The
Like
way feminists
killing
use the way
school
the
more
yeah
than
the way the feminists use the concept is to make you think of mass murder, targeted killings of women. That's how the femicide concept is used, right?
I think the math bit. I don't know.
That's how it's used. Yes, the violence it's to incite violence against women acts. The violence against women, end violence against women, which is I think a bigoted thing and a ridiculous and bigoted thing to say in the current context where they suffer less violence. It's like saying end violence against whites. If you saw posters in the UK everywhere, end violence against whites, end violence against whites, what would you think?
I don't think those are exactly the same.
I think it would be more or less the same. I think the analogy is pretty apt. So women suffer less violence than men, right? So men will suffer more legal punishments for harming a woman than harming a man, and a woman will suffer far less punishments than a man for harming a man than vice versa. Okay, so the whole concept of ending violence against women acts in the USA, right? Punishing men for harming women, putting men on registers in the UK for committing domestic violence, right? It's special legal protections for a demographic. Don't you see the problem with that?
I think there's lots of special legal protections for demographics in, there's various things
Uh,
like various sort of, um, like there's legal in Human Rights Act, you can't discriminate against people based off certain
right.
things. So I think it's quite a sweeping statement to be against it all.
Uh,
I think that violence against men should be treated seriously.
should it be
I
treated
don't
the
think
same?
the word feminism.
Should it be treated the same?
Yeah, I think it should be treated equally seriously. I don't think the word femicide inherently I think that some, people making an issue out of that, it's like being like, oh, well, if you're talking about breast cancer, that means you're pretending that, testicular cancer doesn't exist. I don't.
Well, well, ball cancer. I can't say the word testicular. Ball cancer gets less funding than breast cancer.
Yeah, that's true. Breast cancer is funded really well.
Yeah, and women actually get more medical funding from the system than men do, even though men pay more into the system via taxes.
Does
Women,
that include like childcare,
yeah,
childbirth? I mean,
yes, even discounting childcare.
hopefully that's
Women get
a-
more from the medical system than men.
Do you think that's because women go to the doctor more, or
Uh,
like,
oh, is that women could or what? Okay, so who
I
knows?
don't know.
Maybe not,
I
maybe
don't.
so, but they still get more funding,
Yeah, I
right?
mean that could be, they use it more. I don't know. It's quite hard to. But I don't know.
Right.
I'd have to
So,
look in.
oh, okay. So it's okay. I think that sounds a bit victim blamey to me, but okay. So it's okay. So women get more out of the healthcare. They get more. They get more out. They get more out of everything. They pay less in and get more out than men. They have more rights than men. Right. They live longer lives. Look, I've actually. This is an anecdote thing I'm gonna say. I was homeless for like a couple of weeks. Okay. I was told I was not classed as vulnerable because I was not elderly or a woman. All right, I wasn't sick. I wasn't sick, elderly, or a woman, so I was not eligible for emergency housing. Okay, so that's society telling me I'm a lesser human being than a woman just because I'm male.
I think that is appalling.
Yes. Okay. So, do you really believe that men have systematic advantages over women? Do you
I think
still
they have
believe that?
some, but not.
Okay. Can you try and convince me of at least one?
I actually I will, but I do need to log off in a minute.
Okay.
Um, I think I think that you're talking about US prisons, and by the way, I think that assault in prisons is horrific, but like, that is an example where men are locked up away from women. I think in the rest of
Yeah.
life, I think women are not are the majority, a lot less the perpetrators and more the victims of sexual violence.
Women are the vast majority of child killers and elder
And a
abusers.
lot of society,
I wonder how much child abuse children suffer from women. Women are the vast majority of child abusers.
well, sexual abuse, I don't think
Probably,
so.
yes, probably.
No, the
Physical violence. Well,
number
a
one,
lot of it goes underneath the radar. I promise you, a lot of it goes on. First of all, a lot of sexual abuse perpetrated by males onto children is enabled by the mother anyway. She knows it's going on, but she prioritizes the relationship. That
I'm
goes
not
on a hell of a
accusing
lot.
that at all. And I think what you talk about as the financial burden on men, I 100% sympathize with men
Yeah,
for that. I think that's awful. I think it's
yeah,
terrible. I don't think men should be expected to be the breadwinner. Well,
right.
a family, one of my family members,
Yeah,
his wife is the breadwinner, and he looks after the kids. I think that's fantastic. I think that
right.
should be much more encouraged
But
and be the norm. I think men
you
should be
know,
encouraged
you can
just
cut
to be honest, I think all those things, but
yeah.
I think the word I and some feminists would use for this structure, which expects men to be the breadwinners, the word we would use is patriarchy, and
Okay,
feminists would say, at least my strand of feminism would say that the patriarchy very, very much harms men.
okay.
So I don't think
That's patriarchy harms men too. Gaslighting. It's just gaslighting. So men are begging to provide for women. Oh, come on. So what would a man rather have? A woman he doesn't have to pay for, or a woman he has to pay for? So men are setting up a social system where they put more burdens on themselves for some reason.
I think
Can't you just admit that women want this from men and they're responsible for this gender dynamic?
that women are responsible for this.
Yes, they want provider men. They want this.
I
There's been polls. There's been interviews. Women want provider men. They want provider men.
I think both men and women are at fault for the system.
Well, men are at fault for like giving in, but men have got a choice. They either pander to women or they go without. That's what the choice a lot of men face.
I think we're going to have to agree to disagree. I'm not at all saying that women aren't to blame for any of this at all,
Right.
but I don't think the idea that women have set up this structure, I think for me, I think it's 100 years ago, 50 years ago, there were lots of structural disadvantages to women. Education, in jobs, there are lots of jobs that women were
Yeah.
like, if you watch any old film, there was a lot of jobs that women were discouraged from
Well, they
applying
didn't want to
to.
apply for.
I think that some of those barriers have been broken down since then. A lot of them have. Women couldn't vote.
Yeah.
Women couldn't own property. There were loads of those barriers,
Well,
and
women
I
can,
mean, and I
women can own property. When couldn't women own property?
women couldn't own bank accounts till really, yeah, women were not
I
entitled to own property
homeless men
until.
can own bank accounts until the 2000s. Men didn't have a right to a bank. People didn't have a right to a bank account if they're homeless. Gordon Brown had to step in and get banks give men homeless people bank accounts.
Okay,
What do
well,
you
I
mean?
think
What do you
that's
mean?
really bad too.
What do you
You're
mean?
acting like I don't think it's bad.
You know what femture and coverture is, right? You know the difference between the two.
Sorry, I don't.
Okay, so basically, married couples was considered a single entity, right? A joint entity, right? And femshort was when a woman was single, where she could own property and get a bank account. And married women could still get a bank account. It's just she didn't have a right to it. The bank could refuse her, right?
Yeah, I think that's bad.
Yeah, but the thing is, people didn't have a right to a bank account anyway. There's homeless people up until the 2000s who couldn't get a bank account because the banks didn't want to give them a
I
bank account. The government had to step in and say you've got to give these people a bank account. It's a false context. And also, coverture, the man had to provide for the woman, look after her, and pay all the bills. Married women could run away from a man, right? Live away from him, run up bills on him, and make him pay for it. And he had to pay for the bills legally. He had to pay for it. He was legally responsible. There's a lot of context that feminists remove and that you are missing because you have never been taught. It's
I
not.
know where do I think that system was only banned for women. I just dispute the idea that women all chose and really wanted that
Well,
system.
women, people don't choose the system per se. They're into the system they're born into, but the system comes from collective behaviour on a macro level, right?
Well, you said it's women's.
Women want provider men. Women want provider men. They want safety. Okay, they're more risk averse than men. Okay,
Mhm.
so the social system's going to turn out that way. They want provider men. The system's going to be geared up for provider men, especially in the past. Women are not going to be interested. If a man is providing for a woman and giving her everything she wants, or he's trying to, she's going to be less inclined to go for high status jobs, and she's going to be even less inclined to go for dangerous jobs, right? Because it's
Um,
stressful. The man is taking on all the stress. That's the gender role. Okay, and feminists completely erase the context of this gender role, and women still want that gender role in the modern era. So you can't convince me that gender role was enforced on women. You can't convince me.
I Okay, well, I think that it's a societal structure. I don't think it's all women's fault.
I never
I
said it.
really
I never said
disagree with
it.
that.
I never said it was all women's fault. That's a straw man.
Okay. Well, I don't think it's just women. I think that I'm not at all saying it's just men who are the problem in this. I think that men and women should work together and create a more
Oh.
equal culture.
Well, feminism is not doing that for sure. It'd be great if that happened, but feminism is not doing that. They're taking rights away from men. They're dehumanizing them. Hashtag kill
Okay.
all men. Radical Fem. Huffington Post editor. Hashtag kill all men. All these false articles that feminists pump out about men. All these false
Yeah, I'm sorry,
all
I
these
need
false
to
crime
log off now.
statistics. All these false domestic violence statistics. All this stuff that women have done to men. The feminist movement has done to men. Right. Okay. Right. You can't. So men and women should be equal. When are women going to do this? Because from what I can see, women are either hostile to men or they're indifferent. And I think it's only a small minority of women who are hostile to men, 5 to 10, 15%, maybe 20, but the rest are indifferent, right? So it only takes a small dedicated minority to sway the system, right? I'm not even. More women need to do something for men, but they won't for some reason. They're just indifferent. They're indifferent.
I thank you.
Yeah.
I probably need to log off now.
Okay.
That
All
was very
right.
interesting. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the talk. All right.
Thank you. Have a
I'll
good evening.
I'll stop
Bye.
recording.